Welcome back, folks, to #AskGSM, the weekly Money Mailbag video where I answer your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube right here in this video forum. Lots of great questions this week in a very condensed short of time. I apologize for that. I have to shorten it up this week, so I apologize, but I will still try to answer as in-depth as I can for all of your questions. So kicking it off, Jose K. This was from last week. I couldn't get to it, but I'm getting it to it this week. He asked, predict Kofi Kingston's acrobatic thing that he'll do in the Royal Rumble this year. I predict him getting caught by a stable and someone getting him back in. That's a very good theory. I really have no predictions. I really don't try to anticipate what Kofi Kingston's going to do. I just let it happen. It's always awesome dating back to 2012, and someone else asked me a similar question about Kofi Kingston's past antics in the Royal Rumble matchup, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But what do I expect him to do this year? I think you're right on the money. It's probably going to have something to do with the New Day. He did fall on the back of maybe Tensai. I don't know if Tensai took him out or whatever that was in 2013, but I do know that he was on the back of Rusev when he was leaving the Royal Rumble last year. He jumped on the barricade, and then he leapt from there to the ring, so that was pretty cool. So I do expect him to do something like that, where the New Day catches him and he throws him back in, something like that. But, always expect something awesome from Kofi Kingston. I think you're right on the money with that prediction. His second question was, what move that has been banned do you want back? The punt kick from Randy Orton I always thought was awesome. One of my favorite maneuvers of his, along with the RKO, of course. One of my favorite finishing maneuvers of all time. But I love the punt kick. I know why they banned it, even though it's not real and he's not legitimately kicking them, from what I understand anyway. So I thought that was pretty stupid. Maybe not to encourage other kids to do it. I have no idea. But I want that to be brought back, and he does bring it back from time to time. Maybe that's the best thing for it, so it doesn't get, oversaturated, it doesn't get watered down. So maybe that's the best thing for him to do it every once in a while, not, all the time. That, pile drivers and stuff, it's more of a health risk, it's a safety risk. I could see why they wouldn't bring it back, so I understand that. But bring it back in big-time matches. Like, I remember John Cena versus CM Punk from the February 25th edition of Raw in 2013, 2 years ago, and Punk busted out the pile driver, apparently got in trouble for it. Not surprised with how, that they detail every single move in every single match and every promo, everything, and it was a banned maneuver they didn't know he was going to do. He probably got fined for it. Whatever. I think it really added to the matchup because you don't normally see the pile driver. So, not in everyday situations. Like I said, it's a health risk, but the pile driver and the punt kick. Justin G's got a couple questions. His first one is, do you think the WWE will eventually drop the TV PG rating in order to keep the much older generation of fans? No, I do not see them. I'm not going to say never. I'm going to say never in that case. I know it's a very, very used cliche phrase when it comes to the world of wrestling, but I will continue to say that because I don't think PG will be forever. I think, remember back in the 80s, a lot of people tend to forget that it was PG rating back in the 80s, early 90s, before they went PG-13, PG-14 in the 90s, late 90s, mid-90s. I'm not exactly sure when it was, but it was around that period of time. So it could happen again. Probably not anytime soon with the deals with Mattel and the charities and stuff like that, but never say never. That said, I don't think they would drop the PG rating to keep that older generation of fans, what you're hinting at. I don't think so, if only because it's about the future. It's not about the older generation of fans. Those guys, when they grow up, like my demographic, I will watch regardless, obviously. 18, 19-year-olds, the early 20-year-olds, the older males who, pretty much left after the Attitude Era, after the Attitude Era ended. I think the kids that grow up in the PG world that it is today, maybe they'll grow out of it. I'm not really sure, but I think it's more about directing it towards the kids so they continue to be lifelong fans, as opposed to bring back that older demographic of fans, because I don't think you're going to bring those people back. There's some people that have said, Punk's pipe bomb got me back into wrestling and stuff like this. I've met people all the time that tell me that said that Punk's pipe bomb or this angle or that match, the Shield, whatever, got me back into wrestling, but for the most part, though, much like the WCW audience that did not come over to WWE when WCW closed, they just disappeared because they didn't want to settle for WWE. They just said, fuck it, I'm not going to watch wrestling anymore. You're not going to get those people back, unless for the occasional DVD with Sting or Goldberg or whatever, the rise and fall of WCW, the Monday Night War shit that you do on the network. For the most part, though, you're not going to get those people back, so you might as well direct it towards the up-and-coming generation of wrestling fans. His second question was, I was a huge fan of the Leo Kruger character, as I said in past #AskGSM videos, but did you think that the character of Leo Kruger would have been continued if he was a part of The Shield? And do you eventually see the return to character of Leo Kruger? So, two-part question here. One, do I think it would have continued if he was a part of The Shield? So I think there was a rumor. I don't know when it was, but I do remember, like, when he said that, I do remember, like, bringing back memories of that being a rumor a while ago, of Leo Kruger being in the Shield. That would not have worked. I love the Shield, and I've said this time and time again, that the Shield, the way they handled it was perfect. It was only those three guys. They didn't oversaturate it by bringing in other guys from NXT. They didn't continue the stable with Ambrose and Reigns when Rollins broke away, or Ambrose and Rollins after Reigns broke away, whatever the way they're going to do it initially. They didn't do that. They just, broke separately. They broke up, individually. Then they left it at that. And when they eventually reunite, it's going to mean something, because they didn't go on to... I mean, I know Roman is still using the Shield theme, a re-altered remix version of it. But for the most part, the Shield didn't continue. It just pretty much just dropped off, and they weren't new any members added, and I think that's the best way to go about it. So, would it have continued? I guess, but like I said, I don't think that would have been the smartest course of action. Leo Kruger, could I have seen him in the Shield? Maybe. I could probably see him more in the Real Americans. I know that was teased at one point with Swagger and Cesaro back in maybe late 2013. I know that was teased for a very brief period of time when Leo Kruger was feuding with Sami Zayn. But that said, though, he would not have fit in with the Shield, because the Shield was so unique in that it was only those three guys, and they handled it the best way possible by breaking them up and not adding any new members, reforming the Shield, whatever. So I like it that way. Second question of his, or second part of the question, do I see Leo Kruger returning at any point in time? Yes, I do. Maybe not anytime soon. I was hoping when Adam Rose initially turned heel, and I mean, it's been phase, heel, tweener, back to being phase, heel, face. I mean, it's back and forth with this character. And I'm a Rosebud, and it pisses me off to see they're so inconsistent with a character. It's not doing him or anybody any favors. So, but I do see probably at some point, yeah, Leo Kruger could come back. I think it was a really good character. Was it main event potential? Probably not. But it was a really good character, and I think it had more potential than Adam Rose did. His third question was, I felt like Drew McIntyre, a.k.a. Drew Galloway, had a ton of potential in the WWE. Did you think that he was wrongly promoted and that joining 3MB was a career killer in WWE for him? And do you see him rejoining WWE again in the future, but not as a member of 3MB? Well, of course, if he did return to WWE, he would not be a member of 3MB because it's, gone now. I know Slater is still around, but, Jinder Mahal, got fired the same day that McIntyre did back in June. But, I was a big Drew McIntyre fan as well, so I definitely see where you're coming from. I thought he had a lot of untapped potential too. I think he really evolved into something great down the line. I think early on he was pretty boring, but his mic skills improved. He had a lot of aggression. Like, you go back and watch his indie stuff before he joined WWE. The guy was a hell of a talent. Like, down in FCW, this guy had kick-ass matches with Sheamus and all these other guys down in FCW. And for whatever reason, when they brought him up, they didn't let him bring out that full aggression that he had on the indies and FCW, and he brings it out today in matches with Matt Hardy, from what I've seen, and everything else that he's doing right now. He's like, I think he's a current champion. I think he won a championship on the indies. So that's great for him. I'm very glad to see that he's getting success outside of WWE. Could he rejoin WWE at one point? I'm not going to say no. Like I said, never say never. I know it's very cliche, but I think he is young enough where it's possible. I wouldn't bet my money on it, but it would be cool. It wouldn't be the first time. We saw Chris Masters brought back. D'Lo Brown, of all people, was brought back in 2008. There's a number of people that have come in and out of WWE, and I think McIntyre is a guy that needed some time away to kind of find himself, and then, maybe they can re-sign him. I mean, he's adamant that they will re-sign him. I don't know if it's 100% confirmed. I'm not positive that's going to happen, but I think there is a shred of hope. And to answer the first part of your question, I don't think, joining 3MB was a career killer, and don't quote me on that, because I think his career was long dead ever before he joined 3MB. Of course, that did not help the cause, but, his career was dead in the water long before he joined 3MB. And it really dated back to the incident that he had with his real-life wife. At the time, of course, they're now since been divorced. Tiffany, a.k.a. Sharon Terrell, now in TNA. And since that moment, because I know there was a rumor, I know it was confirmed, a creative member of WWE even confirmed this himself, that he was supposed to win the Money in the Bank ladder match back in 2010 for the SmackDown side of things, and they scrapped that for whatever reason. They went with Kane, which was fine, but after that, they never pushed McIntyre again. The guy won tag team title gold with Cody Rhodes for like a month, and if you can recall, like, no one knows what McIntyre did from that point in time, from after he dropped the IC title to Kofi Kingston, I think it was, in early 2010, and after that incident happened, the guy got no TV time. He was jobbing out to everybody. He was dead in the water. So I think he was losing everybody. He was on a lengthy, very, very losing streak, a lengthy losing streak for a very long period of time. He lost Hornswoggle, I think, of all people at one point, and And El Torito just recently in Raw, like one of his final matches, which was really sad to see. The Great Khali, like they fired him in storyline. They actually did it twice, but they fired him in storyline like in early 2012. He got his job back. It led nowhere. The guy won at WrestleMania 28, but aside from that, they did not do anything for him. And joining 3MB in later that year, late 2012, was like the final nail in the coffin because nobody was ever going to take him seriously as a main eventer, as a legitimate threat in WWE ever again, which sucks. So I think time away from WWE is only going to help him as, mentally, physically, whatever. And hopefully we do see him back. I'm not going to say I'm positive on that. I'm not going to say it's confirmed, but I do think there is a shred of hope because I hope WWE also sees the untapped potential that there was with the Drew McIntyre character. His next question was, with WWE Fastlane being the newest pay-per-view to come to WWE, do you expect the WWE to part ways with any other pay-per-views in 2015, or is this a one-and-done deal like Capital Punishment? I think Fastlane is here to stay. I mean, we don't really know, because, there's been so many pay-per-views over the years. What pay-per-view was brought back? Like, Payback I thought was a really good pay-per-view. The name sucked. I think it was a poor man's Backlash, of course. But the show in 2013 and 2014 were actually pretty damn good. I thought they were among the better pay-per-views of those respective years. And then they got rid of it and in favor of Fastlane, obviously. And I think there were rumors of them moving the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view to another point of the year. And I guess that's not happening because Stephanie said that it's hard to accommodate the pay-per-view due to the buildings and whatever else, because it can't hold the chamber, I guess, with all the updated buildings. I have no idea. That's what she said in a recent podcast. But hopefully the chamber is brought back every once in a while. I've talked about this before here on the show, I think maybe last week. But Fastlane, I think, is here to stay. Fastlane on the road to WrestleMania. I get it. It's stupid. I still am very, very adamant on there not being, it's not necessary for there to be a pay-per-view in February. This goes back to the late 90s that we've had a pay-per-view in that slot every month. But Elimination Chamber in its final years, I think the only year that it was ever really notable was back in 2010, when they had the first ever installment. And since then, it was a forgettable pay-per-view. It never did anything. Nothing ever really on that show, or any of the February shows for that matter, really altered the WrestleMania card too much. So I think it's really, really pointless. It's a waste of money. This is back when the pay-per-view business was still booming, and the network, it isn't really, you're already paying $9.99. You might as well, watch it. That said, though, I just don't think February pay-per-views are really all that necessary. I'm hoping it's a one-time deal. They do it this year, they get it over with, and they get rid of it. We'll have to wait and see. I really don't have any faith in that, but we'll have to wait and see, though. Cody C., also from Facebook. A lot of great Facebook questions this week. I think we got, for the first time ever, I think we got more Facebook questions than Twitter questions. So, shout out to you guys on Facebook. You're all awesome. So, Cody C., his question was, what do you think has been Kofi Kingston's best Royal Rumble match save so far? So, kind of going back to the Jose K. question that I answered on the top of the show. I was going through my head. The one in 2012, the handstand one, I thought was awesome and probably my favorite / the best one that he's done. I thought that was great. The one with Miz when he shoved his feet off and he was doing a handstand. 2013, some people were underwhelmed by that. I thought it was great. But Kofi Kingston jumped on the back of Tensai, and then he went to the commentating table and he hopped on a chair back into the ring, and then he was taken out like a minute later anyway, so it was kind of pointless. That was cool. Some people were underwhelmed by the one in 2014 when he was jumped from the barricade back into the ring. Again, I thought it was awesome, but some people didn't feel the same way. I think 2012 was universally among everyone was wow, that was really cool. So probably the spot that he did in 2012 when he did the handstand. And I think he won an award for that, by the way, too, at the Slammy Awards. So next question from Andre G. He's got a couple of them. His first one is, before he retires, do you think Chris Jericho should have one more heel run? Absolutely. And I think, he's even petitioned for this, for himself. He's talked about this in past interviews, that he wanted to come back at WrestleMania 30 to do a feud. I think it was, WrestleMania 30 to do a feud with Daniel Bryan. Of course, he was busy in a match with Sheamus, as we would find out, of course. Not in the main event of WrestleMania. This is before all that happened. That was not initially planned. I don't care what anyone says. I think Daniel Bryan admitted himself just recently on a podcast or something. So that's what Bryan said. But, of course, it didn't happen. We would get Jericho Wyatt later on in the year. Those are the two feuds I think he really, really petitioned for. That he was really longing for, his feud with Bray Wyatt, which we got, which I thought was good. It wasn't terrible. I thought it was good, though. And his feud with Daniel Bryan, which, of course, if you can recall, it was almost exactly 5 years ago those two clashed in Daniel Bryan's first WWE match back on NXT, and the first ever episode of NXT. So, really historical there. And I don't know if they would mention that. I think it'd be great if they did. And they also had a match a couple years ago, I think in 2013, maybe on Raw, might have been a Chamber qualifier, another really, really good match. And I would love to see them. And I think Jericho won that. And Jericho won both matches. I think the first time he was World Heavyweight Champion. But, yeah, I think that feud would only really work. I mean, you could do babyface versus babyface, but Jericho was such a great heel. And it's funny, too, because when he was back as a heel in, like, 2012, I was like, he should never turn back babyface. He's so much a better heel than he is a babyface. But then he turns babyface, and I don't want him to turn heel because I love the guy so much. I'm a huge Jericho-holic. So, but, yeah, I do think he should have one more heel run. I don't know why people are saying that he has one more run left in him. I think Jericho has a couple years left in him. I mean, he really showed no signs of slowing down during his latest run with the company. It wasn't like he was having bad matches. He was having really good matches in every single time he was in the ring. So I think he has like maybe 2 or 3 tops runs left in him. So I don't know where that rumor started. But I would be all in favor of one more Jericho heel run. I think that could be great. If, go back to his promos with Michaels and back in 2008, I thought it was awesome. So, yeah, I think you should have one more heel run before he retires. His second question was also on the Jericho topic. Who do you think will be the next Chris Jericho of this generation? Very good question. I mean, it's really hard to say. I don't really see Jericho as, like anyone being the modern-day Jericho. And when does the generation start? When does it end? I mean, it's really hard to say. Maybe a Daniel Bryan. I don't know, like with all the title wins that he's had and all the success that he's had. And, main eventing WrestleMania. I see Daniel Bryan as more like a Mick Foley of this generation, and someone else made a comparison, maybe between Stone Cold. I can see that. I don't see, like, Bryan being the new Stone Cold or anything, but, like, the Anti-Authority, like a Stone Cold slash, what was the other thing that I said before? Mick Foley. I could see that. Who's the new Jericho of this generation, though? Like I said, Bryan's only the really one that comes to mind. I mean, I guess only time will tell. Maybe a Sami Zayn. Even that's stretching a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. That was a hard question. It's a good question, a hard question, though, but I can't really say. And his third and final question was, is Big Cass, and, Colin Cassidy from NXT, the Andrew Martin / Test of this generation? So kind of on a similar topic. And this, I thought, was a great question. I thought this was really good because I thought this was a great comparison. And that Test, this big guy that never really won many major titles. He's a former Intercontinental Champion, former Tag Team Champion. A lot of success in his day, and I know some people have asked me, I think it was Justin a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, and he asked me that if I saw Test ever winning World Championship back in WWE. I never really saw that. I thought he was good. I didn't think he was amazing, and Big Cass is kind of the same way. Someone made a comparison between him and Edge, and I can kind of see that too with the look, and he's not as good in the ring as Edge, but he's got the good look, though. He's decent in the ring, but I think he's better off with Enzo. I think Test could stand on his own. Big Cass, I don't really know. I mean, in the singles run that he had in late 2013, early 2014, I was not really intrigued by him at all. He's decent in the ring, he's good on the mic, but to me, he really stands out as a guy that needs Enzo Amore. I think Enzo Amore also needs Colin, but I think Enzo can stand on his own as opposed to Colin. So I could see that comparison. I think it's an awesome comparison, and he might be the new Test, but I think Test could stand alone on his own as a singles competitor. Maybe Big Cass will develop over time, but as it stands right now, probably not, but I think it's an awesome comparison, though. Jason T, his question was, what do you think of the main event of WrestleMania will be? Hands down, it needs to be. I don't know what it will be. I don't know what I think it will be. It's either going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan, what it needs to be. In my opinion, that's what it needs to be. I've been very adamant about this since Daniel Bryan announces the in-ring return of the Royal Rumble. It needs to happen. I mean, if Bryan doesn't win, then it's going to be a repeat of last year what we got with Batista, and hopefully WWE isn't that stupid. So it has to be Bryan versus Lesnar. I think there's a very good chance that Lesnar might lose the title at Royal Rumble, and I think all the speculation about him leaving is only going to help that matchup. Like, I'm really intrigued by the WWE title match on Sunday. I think for the first time in many years do I expect the WWE title to actually change at Rumble. Like Rock in 2013, I know he was winning. Last year, I knew Orton was winning. What was it? In 2012, New Punk was winning. 2011, New Miz was winning. So it's been really obvious for the last couple of years, at the very least. I mean, I'm not even going back to, longer than that. But still, though, I think there's a very good chance that Lesnar might lose the title on Sunday. And I don't think Seth Rollins is ready to go into WrestleMania as champion. Bryan versus Rollins is a great match, and I don't think they would do the Shield triple threat for the title. An awesome match that I really, really want to see, but I don't think they would close out WrestleMania with it. I still feel, and this isn't my philosophy, but I feel like WWE wants to have an established name in the main event, like a Lesnar, like a Cena, like an Orton, Batista, whatever, like we've seen in recent years. And I don't think they would close the show with a Shield triple threat for the championship. Would be amazing. Don't expect them to do it, though. So, that being said, I think the main event of WrestleMania should be this year, Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Brett V, his question was, what indie promotions do you watch? I do not watch many indie promotions. I watch, of course, WWE, TNA on a regular basis. Lucha Underground I watch. I don't know if you would count that as an indie promotion. I guess you kind of can. Lucha Underground is awesome, and those that aren't currently watching it regularly, but you don't have to watch it regularly. I'm not forcing it on you. I'm not one of those people that says, you have to watch this every single week. Check it out for yourself. They put on full matches on their YouTube channel, I think it is. You can stream the shows elsewhere online because a lot of people don't get the channel. I know I don't. But check out Lucha Underground. I think it's awesome. I've been hooked on it since day one. Ring of Honor I kind of got into over the summer. I've kind of fell out of it. Not because it wasn't good, but I just didn't have the time to watch it. And it was hard to stream it like online and stuff. It was hard to find it. And I don't get the channel that it airs on, whatever it is. The network that it's on, I don't get that channel, so I can't watch it on TV or record it or whatever. So I kind of fell out of Ring of Honor, but I do catch it from time to time. I do go to indie shows. I could go to Northeast Wrestling up here in the Northeast area. Anyone who lives near here might be familiar with it. They don't do shows, though. They do shows, but they don't do like a weekly television show. They only put out events and DVDs. New England Championship Wrestling, another promotion I used to go to all the time before they moved out from where my school was. They're not in Beverly, Mass anymore. Now they're in like Everett or something, so I don't go to the shows as often. But still, that's a show that they did do YouTube shows here on YouTube. They don't do them anymore. I think they ran out of their contract deal on TV. Their TV deal expired, whatever. So I do watch them from time to time, even though I can't go to the shows. So Lucha Underground, New England Championship Wrestling. I don't watch Evolve or Chikara or whatever else. It's not that I don't want to watch them. I've talked about this before, but I just don't have the time. I mean, with everything else that I watch Superstars because I have to review it, and I don't have to. I think it's better, and I've talked about this before. I like Superstars. I like everything about WWE, so that's why I watch Main Event, Superstars, whatever. And it's not because I have to review it. Let me clear that up. I do it because, it brings more eyes to my website. It's another thing to review. And that's only like a 20-minute show between the two matches. I don't have time to watch like a full-on hour show aside from Lucha Underground because I think Lucha Underground is awesome. But I don't really have much time aside from that with NXT and Impact, like I said before. So next question from Paul Less. He's got a couple of them, but his first one was... Seth Rollins is on his way, but among Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, who do you think will be pushed to the main event scene first? I want to say, hopefully Seth Rollins. I mean, technically, you can make a case that he already is in the main event scene. I mean, the guy's Mr. Money in the Bank. He's been closing out almost every Raw for the last 6 months. He's the top heel in the company right now, and he's going to be competing for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at the Rumble pay-per-view. So probably Seth Rollins, but... you already said Seth Rollins is on his way, and you're talking about between Dean and Roman. Between those two, preferably Dean. I think he's more ready than Roman, but if it's up to WWE, probably Roman Reigns. Like I said last week on WrestleRant Radio, I don't think he's ready. His mic skills are not there yet. His in-ring skills are getting there, but I think his mic skills have a lot of work to do, and he's not ready for the main event of WrestleMania. I've already talked about that before. But still, though, I do think of those two, Roman will be pushed first. I don't think he deserves to be. But of those two, they'll probably push Roman first, even though I think Dean is ready right now. His second question was, do you think the Ascension would have gotten a better reception in the main event scene had they been partnered with Bray Wyatt? In the main scene, not the main event scene. I'm sorry, I botched that. Maybe. That's a good theory there. I mean, we'll never know, of course. But, I mean, I know there was a rumor for a while that they could be added to the Wyatt family. I think it's better that it panned out that they didn't join Bray Wyatt. I think Bray Wyatt is good on his own. I love the Wyatt family. I don't think they needed to add any new members. It's either the Wyatt family with Eric Rowan and Luke Harper or no Wyatt family at all. I don't think they needed to add the Ascension in there because they were going to be poor man's Eric Rowan's and Luke Harper's. So that's probably for the best. I think just the whole face paint thing I think is stupid. I mean, I think their NXT gimmick was fine. I mean, they didn't really need to alter it at all, in my opinion anyway. So maybe they would have gotten a better reception, but people would have looked at them and been like, oh, they suck compared to Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. So, people would have constantly compared them to the old Wyatt family as compared to, as opposed to Legion of Doom or Demolition, which I still think is a stupid gimmick, but it is what it is. I think they'll be better off in time once they eventually squash that gimmick or change it, give them back what they were doing in NXT, whatever. His next question was, when the likes of Big Show and Kane retire for good, who's going to be the next big guy in WWE? Not talking about Ryback. Good question. I think I've been asked this before, and there's really no one in WWE right now that screams to me in being the next big guy. maybe, like, someone mentioned a Big Cass. I don't really know about that. He's a tall guy, but he's not like a Big Show or a Kane. Like, those guys are really far and few between. Kali's gone right now, or he is gone. He's gone for good, thankfully. But who's going to be taking his place? Like you said, maybe, not Ryback, of course, because you said the big guy in his nickname. Ryback is a big guy, but he's like a Sheamus. He's a muscular guy, but he's not a giant. And there's no giants right now in NXT. Maybe a Bull Dempsey, but I would put him in the same category as like a Ryback or a Sheamus. He's a little bigger than those guys, but still, he's not a giant. Same thing with Baron Corbin, a very big guy, like Big Cass, but he's not like a giant. So I don't know if anyone's ever going to fill that role, but we don't need a giant on TV. Like, this was the biggest problem with Big Show. The guy's been on TV for, 15 years now in WWE, and, I mean, he's been so overexposed that if you're going to bring in a giant like Andre or Big Show, Kane's different because he's always evolving. Big Show's been doing the same shit for, 15 years. And, he's been on TV far too much. If you're going to bring in a giant like that, he needs to be far and few between. Like a Lesnar is, a very special, kind of unique being, so they bring him back every once in a while. It's best for buy rate. It's best for business, as, to steal from the authority. That's a completely different story, but I don't know. I really don't know. There's no giants right now in developmental that would, obviously fill in the role of a Big Show or a Kane, so we're going to have to wait and see if they bring in anybody that could fill those roles. His fourth question was, they say time heals all wounds. How long do you think the WWE will keep on erasing history with Chris Benoit? And is there any chance they might forgive him soon and get the recognition that he deserves? So, the old Chris Benoit question. Now, I'm a big Chris Benoit fan of the work that he did in WWE. Now, this all goes back to the WWE Hall of Fame thing. As much of a fan as I was of his in-ring work, he should never, ever, ever deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. So I see what you're saying. Why won't they forgive him? Will he ever get the recognition he deserves? I was a person that said, a while ago, but I've, come to understand why they don't do it, why they don't bring him up. It's bad for business. Like, if they bring up Benoit on TV every week, who is this guy he was a murderer who murdered his own family, allegedly, or, whatever you want to say, fact, and, everyone has their stories. I don't want to get into that right here, not right now. But, still, though, that's to make a comparison to real life, and maybe I'm way off here, but this is just me. It's like someone going to jail for, doing what he did, killing his wife and kid, and then killing himself, and then saying, you know what, we forgive you, you're okay, come on out. It's been long enough, come on out. It doesn't work like that. You do the crime, you do the time. I know he's not in jail, he's dead, but just not like that. I'm sorry. He's never, ever going to be. I mean, is there ever a chance? A very, very, very slim chance. I'm not saying they're going to put a DVD out on him, but I think I think right now is where it needs to be. They're not mentioning him on TV, which I think is for the best, obviously, but they do have his stuff on the network. The Monday Night War shit that they had on him, I think it was the Cruiserweights episode. They showed him in the front row. Jim Ross mentioned by name in the clip. They didn't edit that out. They showed his face. It's not like they blurred his face or anything. In some areas, they've improved. I'm glad they didn't cut all of his stuff out on the network. That's great, I think. And that's where I think it needs to be. You don't need to talk about Benoit the person. They're too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about the person. You don't induct people in the Hall of Fame. I know that wasn't your question, of course. But you don't induct people in the Hall of Fame just for their in-ring work. It's all about the person themselves, too. How great of a contributor they were to the business. And you just can't, induct someone that was a murderer and killed their own wife and kid. And I know Mike Tyson was a rapist and whatever else. I think that's a different story. And that's, I don't really want to get into that here and get a whole bunch of hate for that. But like I said, they are not erasing. If they were erasing history, they would have taken the shit off the network, and they didn't. So I'm glad about that. I'm very happy that they have his stuff on the network. But I don't blame them for doing what they do right now. I mean, it's from a business standpoint, it's what they need to do. I mean, there's really no if, ands, or buts about it. They just can't mention the guy like they do. Maybe, show the occasional clip of him wrestling, but you just can't promote him. They're not erasing history, I think. I think they are in some areas. It wouldn't kill you to mention it, on the Royal Rumble winners. It wouldn't kill you to show Benoit. I understand that, but, that they should probably change. That I can definitely see a legitimate claim with. But aside from, putting a DVD out on him or talking about the best champs of all time and shit like that, you don't need to do that. Obviously, you don't need to promote the guy because you don't want to get into his back history and stuff like that. WWE doesn't need the bad press. So I understand where they're going with that. I don't think they'll ever forgive him for the sins. I mean, it's a really sensitive situation, but I don't think they'll ever forgive him and be like, yeah, it's okay, you killed your wife and kids. It's been long enough. I don't think I ever see that happening, to be honest with you. But I am a big fan of his in-ring work, and if you do want to relive that, it's on the WWE Network, so I think that's good enough for me anyway. Everyone has their different opinions, but that's just me. So sorry about the rant, but I just wanted to get into that. I thought it was a very good question, His next question was, had they stayed in WWE, how far do you think Frankie Kazarian and AJ Styles would have made it? Not far at all. Frankie was doing Velocity for the longest time. When he was in WWE, I think he had a good look. And he's since, shut down the rumors that they wanted him to shave his head. He refused to do it, and then they fired him. I think he just, said, I'm not probably ever going to go anywhere in this company, so he left or he got released. I'm not exactly sure what the true story was there, but if the guy was, wrestling on Velocity every week, I'm not even saying Kazarian is a main event talent. I think he's very, very good. I think Kazarian is great, but I don't ever see him being, world champion, not only in WWE, but just elsewhere, maybe in TNA, but, for all the years that he put in there. And I know he's not currently there anymore, but you know what I mean. I think Daniels was more world champion caliber talent than Kazarian ever was, in my opinion anyway. But Kazarian would not have made it far at all. I mean, the guy was, that was around the time that he still had the Cruiserweight division. He would have been in the Cruiserweights before getting fired. I mean, he eventually did get released, come to terms on his release, whatever. He would not have made it far. AJ Styles, same thing. If we're talking about if he joined back in, whenever it was, right after WCW closed, probably would not have made it far, especially with the roster they had back in 01, 02, the amazing roster they had. I mean, the only reason why, if they brought him in now and they pushed him, it's only because he had so much success outside of WWE, in TNA, in New Japan, and Ring of Honor. Back then, they didn't know what they had. So I think Jim Ross, he's talked about this before, I made a huge mistake in not signing AJ Styles, but if he went to WWE, he probably would not have had a great career. Maybe mid-card at best. He would never have been a world champion. Could he be world champion today? I think so. I think in reality, realistically speaking, I think he could be world champion. But it's WWE we're talking about. They're never going to push AJ Styles. If they were to bring him in, which I don't see it happening, unfortunately, they would never push him towards main event. I would love to see it. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. He's been branded as a TNA guy for being there for so long. It's a spite. It's all politics. It would never happen. But, they would not have made it far at all. So I think they were much better off just going to TNA, where they ended up making careers and names for themselves. At Daniel Cabeza 59, his question was, do you think Daniel Bryan is 100% healthy? It was Daniel that sent me a link on Twitter, I think a couple days ago, that said Daniel was not. I think he got hurt at a live event or something. I don't know if he's 100%. He's probably maybe 95. I don't think he's 70. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come back. I think he is great enough to come back. So he may not be 100. Maybe he's 95, 99. I don't know. But I do think he is ready to come back. He is absolutely ready to come back. From what he said, otherwise he wouldn't be back right now. A neck injury is a very serious issue, and if they didn't think he was ready to return, they're not rushing him back. I think he legitimately thinks that he is ready to go. So yes, if he's not 100, he's at least up there in 90 plus or whatever, 90, 95, 99, whatever. At Thomas B96, his question was, who do you see returning as a surprise wrestler in the Royal Rumble to end the show here? At Raymond_Marceau, RJ from WrestleRant Radio, his same question. So to answer their respective questions as one, I've talked about this before. There really isn't anyone this year that I could see, I talked about this on Twitter a couple of days ago, and that, Kurt Angle and Punk, those are the two that, the biggest ifs, if they come back to the Rumble this year, or Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy re-signed with TNA, which sucks, but it happened. Kurt Angle, same thing, so there's no chance of him coming back in the Rumble, and Punk signed with UFC, so there's no chance of him being in the Rumble. So, that being said, I just don't see it happening, so right now there's really no big rumors, maybe a Hogan. I know he wants to get back in the ring. Not really in favor of him. I'm not at all in favor of him wrestling one more match at WrestleMania. A 30-second Rumble spot? Sure, why not? I'd be fine with that. Who else? Maybe a Scott Hall after Kevin Nash was in last year. NWO for life, baby. Hopefully we see them on Raw tonight together as NWO. We'll have to wait and see. But, I could see a Scott Hall maybe. I don't know if he's in ring shape. Jake the Snake Roberts, I don't know how his health is doing. I know he's always wanted to be in the Rumble, but that would be cool if they could do that this year. What they should have done last year, but whatever. They had him at Old School Raw, so that's important. But, that being said, though, who could I see this year? Team 3D, I think, is the only real names that I've talked about that I could see coming back. They're not under a contract to TNA anymore, from what I understand. And I think they might be doing stuff in Japan, but a one-off return to the Rumble would be freaking awesome. Not Bully Ray. I've talked about this before. Bully Ray was a star in TNA. The last time WWE fans saw him was as a tag team guy for his entire career in WCW, not in WCW, in ECW and WWE. So they wouldn't see him as a threat to a Brock Lesnar. I hate when people say that. You have your own opinion, to each his own, but I just don't think Bully Ray in WWE is a main event caliber guy, especially at the age that he's at. But my opinion anyway. And I love Bully Ray. I love the guy. I think he's a great talent. I just don't see him ever, being a main event guy. I know that's not your question. I apologize for the tangent there. But who could I see returning as a surprise wrestler? Obviously Randy Orton. That's not really a surprise. We expect him to be back. Who else is out injured right now? Bryan's back. I would have said Bryan, but he's already in the Rumble. And I think someone else asked me. I don't think I put it in here. But do you think it was best? Let me look it back, because I think someone else asked me a question about Daniel Bryan. Yeah, Jose did. Actually, there's a few questions I didn't get to. I'll go back. Oh, there's There's like 3 of them. I'll get back to that. So there's 3 more after this. Surprise entrance, probably Team 3D. Those are the people I would love to see back in WWE for the first time in 10 years. But aside from that, though, there really isn't anyone specifically that I could see coming back. Maybe a legend like a Hogan or a Hall or a Jake Roberts, but there isn't anyone like an Angle or a Punk, because those guys are already set in stone, not coming back, 100% confirmed. So, yeah, maybe one of those guys. So 3 questions here that I have skipped over somehow. I don't know how I botched this and skipped over these, so I apologize to these 3 guys from Facebook. JRF, his question was, what has been the best Rumble match in the PG era? We're not counting 08 here because that was before the PG era, technically, because the PG era was instituted in July of 2008. I would say the 2011 one. I've talked about this before. I think the 2010 one was very underrated. Some people shit on that. I thought the 2010 one was very good, with the promo from CM Punk and Michaels, him being desperate, and Batista and Cena, and all the stuff they had going on in that Rumble. Beth Phoenix. I thought 2010 was a great Rumble. 2011, the 40-man Rumble, the only one they've ever done. For some people, that was a little much. It dragged on a little long. I had no problem with it. I thought it was great. I loved the 40-man Rumble. They had the surprise entrance and Booker T and Kevin Nash, the stuff with the new Nexus, Del Rio winning, Miz eliminating John Cena, like a lot of stuff happening. So, it's a tie, I think, between 2011 and 2010. I would go with 2011. That was my favorite year. Maybe I'm being biased in saying that, but in saying 2011. But I do think that was a great Rumble, right on par with the 2010 Rumble. 2012 one was very underwhelmed by. 2013 was also great. I would put that as an honorable mention. I thought that was a great Rumble. A lot of people overshadowed that with the John Cena win, but everything else before that I thought was great. 2014 was not a good Rumble at all. In 2009. And I haven't seen it yet. I have to go back and watch it on the network, but I wasn't really all that great from what I remember. So next question from Jose M. Do you think WWE made a mistake by having Daniel Bryan announce his return to the Royal Rumble? No, I'm a sucker for surprises. So coming from a guy that loves surprises, I would love, it would have been great if, number 30 comes on and Daniel Bryan, 1 year after getting, not being in the Rumble match, the match that he should have won last year, not being in the Rumble. It would have been awesome if he came out at number 30, wins it, like everyone would have gone batshit crazy. But I think the key in announcing Daniel Bryan beforehand is, one, it garners more interest in the pay-per-view. And before Daniel Bryan threw his name in the hat, we all knew Roman Reigns was going to win. So at least now there's at least 2 names that we think are going to win. It would have been great if Bryan came back and won, but I think it also increases, from a business standpoint, increases buy rates, network subscriptions, whatever, because, I think Bryan might actually win. Let's buy it this year. Roman Reigns might win. So at least this year we have a couple candidates. Like in recent years we really haven't. Like 2012 we all knew it was Jericho, even though Sheamus won. But we all thought it was Jericho. 2013 John Cena. 14 Batista. So at least this year we have a couple names. And you have your Zigglers and your Ambroses and even your Wyatts or Rusevs, whatever. But I think Reigns and Bryan are your biggest names. And I think it was great that they announced them beforehand. It, garners interest before the pay-per-view. So I think it was smart. I don't think it was a mistake. It would have been cool if he came back as a surprise, but I have no problem with it whatsoever. I can see why they did it. I understand it. Final question, finally. Colin G's question was, should Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan, and Ryback return as an anti-authority stable? No. I see where you're getting at here. We've seen it before, and I think Dolph Ziggler just needs to go out on his own. Eric Rowan feels out of place. I understand he was in the main event of Survivor Series on Team Cena, but I don't know. That guy, I don't even hate Eric Rowan, but I think, take him out of there. He doesn't really need to be in that feud. He doesn't need to be on Superstars every week. I understand that. I think he deserves better than that. But you don't need to do a whole stable with Ziggler, Rowan, and Ryback. I think Ryback already has a ready-made feud with Rusev, so there's really no need to have him feud with the Authority right now anyway. With Ziggler, and I think Ziggler should, if there's going to be anyone out of this 3 people that are going to be feuding with the Authority, Triple H, it should be Ziggler. Ziggler versus Triple H WrestleMania would be kick-ass and a great match for Ziggler. A nice promotion for him at WrestleMania. Don't see it happening, or it'd be awesome though. So I would nix that idea. I could see where you're coming from, but we've seen it before. It's too predictable, and I think all 3 guys should go off on their own. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of #AskGSM. As always, folks, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really means a lot. Enjoy Raw tonight. Have a great day off. If you're celebrating Martin Luther King Day, or if you have the day off from work, school, whatever, hopefully you guys have a great day. If you're watching this on Tuesday, later on in the week, hopefully you have a great week. And this is the final edition before the Royal Rumble next Sunday. I have to find out when I'm going to be filming this. The final edition you'll be seeing me film, in this environment before I go back to school this upcoming Sunday. And I have to find out when I can film with my roommate schedule and, stuff like that. Class schedule, whatever. So we'll have to wait and see, but hopefully I will be continuing the show and going back to school next week. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But enjoy the Royal Rumble on Sunday. Have a great week. Have a great night, folks. And I'll catch you next Monday.